Disney's first gay character was never supposed to be advertised that way, and the real story about what happened is actually kind of tragic. So the original Beauty and the Beast was dedicated to its gay lyricist Howard Ashman, who had died of AIDS just 8 months prior to the film's release. When it went on to win the Oscar for Best Original Song, Ashman's partner was allowed to accept it on his behalf. Cut to 2017, and the live-action remake is being directed by another gay man named Bill Condon. And for the press tour of Beauty and the Beast, he did multiple interviews talking about his interpretation of Ashman's work and how much Ashman was a huge inspiration for him. In one of these interviews that was primarily about Howard Ashman that he did with the gay magazine Attitude, Condon offhandedly mentioned that he had Josh Gad play LeFou as subtly being confused about whether he wants to be Gaston or be with him.
There's no one as easy to poster as you.
This already isn't that far off from the original, where LeFou sings a whole song about how Gaston is the hottest guy in town. Condon and Gad just chose to play into this ambiguity of what LeFou's feelings for him could be. But it was always meant to be just a subtle, small part of his character that ties into the film's themes of conformity and defining masculinity. The few seconds where he dances with a man at the end isn't supposed to be this big gay representation for Disney. It's meant to just be a funny, ambiguous scene that could be read as a continuation of LeFou's gay behavior even after Gaston, especially considering the guy he's dancing with is the same one who was happily in drag earlier. But it certainly wasn't there to explicitly confirm LeFou's sexuality. It seems that scene was only even brought up by Condon because he was just excited to have this small moment where two men are dancing in a Disney film that Howard Ashman had worked on. This was, again, just an offhanded comment. He never treated it as if it was going to be a big part of the film or a big step in representation or even the first gay Disney character. But when Attitude magazine released their digital version of the article, it barely mentioned Ashman and heavily featured its own editor-in-chief talking about how this was a huge step in terms of representation for Disney, based off of these underprepared side comments by Condon. The story just blew up from there, and even though Condon did follow-up interviews talking about how his statements were being taken out of context and blown out of proportion, the damage was already done. People were expecting this big gay moment only to be disappointed when it turned out to be a short scene of two men dancing, which only got worse with time as Disney went on to make more and more first gay characters. And Josh Gad himself felt blindsided by these comments because he filmed that scene without having any idea that it would be portrayed as this big gay moment. What's really tragic about this is that if the story had not been distorted and blown out of proportion, we probably would have interpreted LeFou the exact way that the director wanted us to. Everything he said about the character and Gad's performance comes across incredibly clear in the film if you're not looking at it through this lens of being groundbreaking representation. And even if you didn't view it the same way, it wouldn't matter because this was just a very small thing the director saw in this film. But what he thought was going to be an article about how Ashman inspired him ended up turning into this huge story that removed any nuanced interpretations of this character or film, ultimately created an embarrassing talking point for himself, Disney, and Josh Gad. And it really was just some small, subtle acting choices he was excited about.